especially those who have questions. Okay. Nobody wants to move forward?
Recording in progress.
So we're just waiting a couple of moments for Sunir to join us.
I have a question to ask now.
You want to ask, the filmmaker is not online yet,
Okay.
so we'll wait for him to join us and then maybe you can ask your question. So we'll break the rules this time. Hi, Sunir.
Hi.
Hi. You cannot see the audience, but they can all see you on this big screen here. So thank you for the lovely film, and we've had a good audience. So I'm going to start with the first question. The audience already has a question, but I want to start with, did she get to go to Kathmandu the following winter?
No.
Unfortunately. Okay, okay. So a little bit about, a little bit of context, the circumstances around which the film, I mean, a film like this was allowed to happen. So there are these migrations, I understand. I mean, you mentioned it in the beginning about they all moved to the south, yeah? So can you, I mean, I'm sure there are other villages also like this. So what was, I mean, how did you discover this particular village? How did the story come to you? Maybe you can set the context a little bit. And there is somebody in the audience who's been like waiting to ask the question. So, okay, he can wait. Yes, so maybe we can kind of get a little bit of context about how the film happened.
Okay. Well, I came across a YouTube video. Some journalists had made a YouTube video about these two women, and I sent this to Rajan, and then I said, "Listen, we have to go and spend 100 days. We have to spend the whole winter there, and that's how we'll find the film." And that was the initial gut instinct. And then this was what, August 2018, and then we made a short, our first preliminary trip there in February 2019. So we shot for around 8 or 10 days, and in the meantime we had applied to a documentary lab in Kolkata, Doc Age Kolkata. So we went there, and we had cut a pitching trailer. We pitched, and we won some like award to help us with our next shooting. And in the meantime, we also found our producer there. He was one of the mentors, and so that's how kind of the film journey started. We found, and then we had to go there, and then when we went there for the first time, we had to really see whether. When we saw this YouTube video, the premise was very interesting. The two ladies, they were very interesting. One of them sang, the other one was kind of a pragmatist kind of person. And then we found this contrast. We thought that this contrast would be very useful for a film, but we still didn't know if this was enough for a feature film, I suppose. So we went there for the first time, and then we had to make friends with them, but we were under pressure to find some material for a pitching trailer. So thankfully, we managed to do both. And over the course of 2019, we did two more short trips like this, and then in better weather. For the first one, we went in winter, and then the second one was in May, and then the third one was in October. And then we thought we were prepared. We knew what the general picture was for the film, so we went for as long as it would take us, I suppose. We were prepared to stay there for 100 days. That's what we were saying to ourselves. It's going to be 100 days of winter this time, and we spent around 72 days. This was the winter right before COVID, so end of December to first week of March 2020. And yeah, so that's the circumstance about how we found how we came across the subject. But I think you also mentioned something about the circumstance of the village itself. In these highlands, these high altitude places, all across the Himalaya mountains, people leave their village in winter because it gets too cold. So they have like a northern settlement during pleasant weather, and then in winter they all move south. And then the practice in this village, in this valley, was that they appoint caretakers to take care of these houses, and it just so happened that in this village, these two ladies were put in charge.
So this is not a common occurrence where two women, the two elderly women, become the custodians of the village during the harsh winter.
I think anyone who finds whatever they're paid useful would stay back. In the valley, there are other villages in this valley, and we came across other these guards, caretakers. One of them was a couple. One of them was just a man who sent his family away during winter, and then he stayed back. So these people, I suppose the villagers find someone during pleasant weather, or someone who takes up the job. And for these women, I suppose it was also a question of finding some kind of a useful role in society during winter. So they could say, you've given us responsibility, and now we have a useful role in society. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they take the job very, very seriously, right? It was very interesting, very exciting. So how did you tell us about these characters? I mean, you said that you saw that they were very contrasting, contradictory characters. Uh, how did well, though it comes across very easily in the film, the contradiction, but I'm sure to get them to kind of be open with you, kind of share their lives with you wouldn't have been that easy. How did you make
Yes,
that happen? Yeah.
I think because they were so lonely in winter that they found us. They found us to be something like their grandchildren or sons, or the first the woman who sings, Ratima. She didn't have any children, so she always she's a singer. So she knows that people come to her for she has an aura of a performer. So she knows that people find her. Of value to them, to her, to the people who come and listen to her songs. So I suppose, we performed that role initially. To the other lady, she has daughters, but there's a deep yearning in her for sons, and we found that over multiple trips and over our long stay in winter. But initially, they were just. I suppose at first they were quite amused that three guys come from Kathmandu, and they're following us with their cameras, and they find their songs and their banter and the chitter chatter useful for them. And later on, because we went there repeatedly, and we came to gain their trust that way. So usually they used to tell us, people like you come around, you shoot for like 5 or 6 days, and then you go away, you become famous, and then you forget us. Things like that, these things tend to happen. But we went there multiple times, and each time the friendship deepened, and that's how opened us. They opened up about their private lives and their, very candid moments.
Yeah, in fact, that was what for me was most striking about the film. I mean, visually, yes, most striking, but then, one could, you allowed the space. It was like reading a book. There was literature actually, though, usually it's a book that becomes a film, but this film, for me personally, felt like, it allowed for literature. Yeah, so, yeah, maybe we can go to the audience before I come back. Any questions there? You will have to go to the mic there. Yes, because that is how Sunir will get to see you.
I'm sorry. I wish I was there in person, but
Yes,
it couldn't happen.
Can you
unfortunately.
see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can do both.
So this is not really much of a philosophical question, more of a technical question. During filming, there must have been times where the caretakers of the two ladies were like physically ill or couldn't work too well. I think there was one point where one of them said they needed a medication. Did you have some protocol for what you would have to do if one of them needed medical assistance? Like, how would you decide when to intervene while maintaining the reality of the situation?
No, I mean, this is a very important question that's been asked many different times. So thank you. it allows me to clear things up. We did, in fact, provide medicine, and then we kind of got medicines delivered through much, a lot of hard work went into that, and we did that multiple times. And there was no such. The protocol was that someone gets sick to the point that they need help, you stop your work, and then you kind of try to make it happen, in parallel with the filming.
Right.
In the film, there's a point where in the film it seems as if she's going to, not make it, and then we made this happen through editing, of course.
Oh,
But
okay. Yeah.
there were multiple instances when she got ill, and then we'd stop filming her, and then in the meantime we'd procure some medicine, and then she'd get better, but then she'd start drinking again.
Right.
So it was kind of a tug of it was that kind of situation.
Right. Okay, so you didn't wait till after the film to help them out. You helped them out during this. Okay.
No.
That's my
No,
question.
we had some medicines ourselves, but those were painkillers and things like that.
Yeah,
so
of course.
she needed blood pressure medicine and some kind of steroid to keep her. She had this disease, a nerve disease that she had, and her last prescribed medicines that she showed us were amlodipine, blood pressure medicines, and some steroids. So those are the ones that we got delivered during the winter somehow.
Right. Thank you for answering the question.
Thank you.
Anyone else? So Ratima as a performer, I mean, one doesn't get a sense of it all through the film. I mean, you bring in that right at the end, at the close of film. I mean, was there a reason behind it? As to not, because
No.
all along you think it's the other one who is the performer, because she is, she's always performing, right? I mean, she's very vivacious and she's a vibrant character, so to say. While with Ratima is always very morose and kind of sad.
Yes. No. Initially, we wanted the film to begin and end in winter, but later on in editing, we found that it was much more useful to bring it at the end, because we kind of decided to go towards the direction of here's these two people having a hard time in winter, and then there's pleasant weather, and then they have some kind of renewed hope that the situation will improve. One of them says, I'd like to go to Kathmandu, but then they can't go. So we wanted this cyclical. It's a kind of a depressing ending, I suppose, to the film, but it's how their life was. So we wanted to emphasize this kind of a spiral nature of their lives, in which there wasn't any solution. We in the film we kind of hinted at that Ratima would, we kind of hinted very strongly that she would not make it. But that was their situation in the film. So for Ratima, it ultimately happened that that was exactly how her life turned out. Whereas the other one, who is more, who's a very pragmatic sort of person. She had the means to take good care of herself, and she did, and yeah. So that's exactly, I suppose, how things turned out for them.
So how big was the crew? Because, I mean, there's a lot of hard work that has gone into filming and just setting up all those shots. Was it a small, tight crew that you worked with? Was it a big crew? Were there lights that you brought in, or was it natural light all through?
Everything was natural lighting. In some shots, you can see some kind of a bulb somewhere, and that the scene's been lit by the bulb. But there were only three of us: Rajan, myself, and our cinematographer Bobin. So the three of us. That's the whole crew during filming, and later on, of course, during post-production and editing, there were other crew members. But during filming, just the three of us. And I think it was quite a good decision to go with such a skeletal crew. because you don't want that candidness and this comfort that that the characters share with us. You don't want this to be this thing to be, I suppose, spread to too many crew members, because they would, of course, interact differently with a larger team, and that, I suppose, would distract from what we're trying to get at. So it turned out to be a good decision on our part.
And so what we see in the film has been shot in sequence, or can you tell us a little more about that?
No, no. So we did the pleasant weather trips before the serious winter shooting, and there's, I think, one shot from the first trip we did. So it's kind of a mix up of things during editing.
Any more questions from the audience? You can please walk into the mic. Yes, please. Thank you.
Hi, Sumer. How did you manage
Hi.
to charge your equipment for 72 days?
There was in the village there was a micro hydroelectricity plant, and we stayed in a kind of a community hotel at one corner of the valley. And every day we would trek half an hour to this village. We'd do all our shooting. We come back in the evening. We put the batteries on charge. We copy the footage to 2 hard drives. And this went very smoothly until the power plant broke in the middle of the winter. And because it would cost a lot of money to bring a technician from somewhere else in Nepal, we were thinking, now this is it, we pack up our bags and go back to Kathmandu. But luckily, there's also an army camp in this area, because this whole area falls under a hunting reserve. So the army is there to provide security. So we had developed good relations with the army people. So they'd let us charge our batteries when we had no electricity. But for, let's say, that went for around 10 days, but for the rest of the time we had electricity.
Hey, thanks.
And I think, yeah, in some of the shots, in some of the scenes also, you can see kind of bulb lighting, white colored CFL, I think we call it. But yeah, there was electricity in this village.
Thanks.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm asking on behalf of my grandmother because this is her walker right here and it's a bit of a production. But she was wondering, one, what languages you had in common and sort of how that communication happened, and then also how far was it to Kathmandu and how hard was it to make that journey? Thank you.
Okay. We speak the same language, Nepali. But it's a very different dialect. And the first time we went, we really had to pay attention, and then by going there repeatedly, we kind of learned the language. The first time we went, it took us 3 days to get there because we were also on some kind of fact-finding mission at first. We wanted to meet people who had been there, who had contacts. So the first time we went there, we really took our time. And for the main shooting that we went for 72 days, we had, a lot of preparation. We took, powder milk, black tea, green tea, coffee, hot chocolate, two boxes of hot chocolate, two bottles of hot chocolate, which ran out, and there was a crisis because of this. And then kiwi fruit, cheese. We tried to get fruits delivered to the village whenever it was possible. We had, I think, 52 rolls of toilet paper because all of us are very allergic to the cold. And then, what if we fall sick and all that? So we had 13 bags in total, I guess, and then half, maybe 3 for equipment, and maybe the rest was supplies and clothes and trekking gear and gum boots, and felt socks that I made after learning from YouTube, and multiple pairs of thermal wear, and warm socks and cotton socks, and caps and scarves and things like that, everything. So we really prepared ourselves. We said we won't go back until we have the film in our hands. And what happened towards the first week of March was that the weather started getting better. It started raining instead of, there was sleet instead of snow. And some people, started coming back to the village, and there was a lot of noise as well. So it stopped being isolated. So, and that's when we thought we should return. And yeah, I mean, 2 weeks after coming to Kathmandu, there was lockdown. So that's how the shooting went.
You were talking about all the food that you took there. A particularly stark shot for me in the film, I mean, as harsh as the winter is, it's her scavenging for the greens in the dry mud.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
that shows, I mean, that to me shows the brutality of the,
Yes.
so that was very, very powerful actually for me.
Yes, this Kalima, she's a very pragmatic woman, a multitasker, and then she goes on her rounds, but she also looks for things that she can forage, I suppose, in all that dirt, and then yeah, as you said, it's an example of how life is really brutal up there, and then whatever things they can find for their sustenance, it really matters. Every potato and every clump of sag of greens. So yeah.
Yeah, any other questions? Yeah, also about the music that you brought into the film. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about why you felt the need to, I mean, obviously to kind of push the narrative forward. Yeah, that's an easy explanation. But your choice of the soundtrack, especially the music bits, if you can tell us a little bit more about.
Yes, I think it was very closely tied to our editor who edits, bringing in sample music from wherever he can find, and also it has to do with because the film does not really move forward in a linear way. Some things happen and then the plot thickens and things like that. So during editing, we found that the film was moving ahead through chapters. And then the best way to separate these chapters was through music, of course. But then we also found out that we had to really establish this place as very isolated, kind of a brutal place, really, and that's why we went ahead with this ominous sounding music. And then the music had to change with uh, their individual fates in the film. So whenever Ratima, her kind of illness is shown, we use a very ominous and things are going to really go south kind of music. And towards the end, when kind of Kalima is like a survivor of this tale, we use a very kind of a very sweet and melodious piece to use in that place. So that's how we went ahead, and we also tried because Ratima is also a singer. So and then we also collected folk music from around the area. But whenever we used folk music, it turned out to be tribal, a kind of a ethnic thing, kind of a and we didn't want the film to indulge in that kind of a tone. We weren't after making a thing about a tribal people in some part of the world. We just wanted to make it as universal as possible, and using folk singing made it kind of very local, very tribal, very ethnic. Like colorful clothes and beads and things like that. So we wanted to avoid that. So we went for this kind of a soundtrack.
No, so I'm asking this question also in the context of because the film has kind of had international funding, right? I mean,
yes,
yeah. So because all of us as filmmakers, have heard about how editors and producers, international producers, kind of put pressure on how a story has to be told, a documentary story, a non-fiction story. So did you kind of, I mean, how was it working with an international team? I mean, in terms of both creatively, especially creatively, I guess.
Because the most of our funding came from grants and from our own pockets, we weren't under any kind of a pressure from commissioning editors and distributors and producers and things like that. We knew that we had very limited money while shooting, so we knew that we had to manage things within a budget. And later on, during lockdown, when we started looking at the footage, and then when we started editing our pieces, we got some funding after that. So all of this funding that we got after the film was shot, eventually to turn out that way, we used that for post-production. So editing and music, sound, color, and things like that. So there wasn't really a lot of pressure, creative kind of thing, because we couldn't concoct a situation where things are, the traditional kind of 3-act kind of structure and a linear plot, and so things didn't happen like that. So yeah, so there wasn't that big of a creative pressure from anywhere.
Okay. Any more questions? Yeah, please.
Hello, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I had a question that you mentioned first that you guys were going to shoot for 100 days and then you stopped shooting after 70, 75 days. How did you know when to stop shooting? Like what was it that made you think, oh, I think I have the film, or like, this is it, this is what we wanted to get?
During winter, a lot of things happened. For example, Ratima left the village like 4 days after we had been there. So in the meantime, we had to brainstorm and come up with different kind of storylines, and a lot of things were happening in the village that were beyond our control. But we had a kind of we're talking every day about what to film and what to include and what to exclude. And after a point, we felt that we had material, we had good material, and we could only decide after looking at it. But in the meantime, what happened was the weather started improving for the people who live there, but kind of not improving for us, because for us winter was better for the shooting. So, and then people started coming back, and there was a lot of noise, and which we didn't want. So, and then we thought we should go back. So that kind of ended. That was the decision that ended shooting for us. But we did, in fact, film for over 100 days in total. But the main shooting went on for, let's say, around 70 days.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, please come forward.
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
I was interested to know, like, there's this dynamics between the two characters, and like, there's a scene where we are seeing that one of them is pelting stones at the other's house, and so like, were there these tensions much more severe during the shoot, and like, how did you guys also decide between like over a day, like what place to be and how to shoot, like between these two characters, like were they like, there's some scenes where they're together and all, but so how did you make that decision and whom to cover at what situation? Just that.
No, I mean, they had a kind of a very cold and distant relation to each other. They were practically, they ignored each other for most of the time. But when one of them got sick, or the other one would come and, kind of try to help the other one as much as possible. And a lot of this was happening throughout winter. And then we decided, we made decisions based on, we would follow follow a certain theme, and then try to, if we shot with one of them for, let's say, some time, we'd try to see if we could do something related to that with the other one. And it didn't really work out all the time. But and then there were some days that we thought we would follow one of them more seriously and the other one more, just to check in what's happening. And then this would happen with one of them for some time and the other one for some more time. And that's how we went about things. And when one of them got very ill, we tried to get, things that we could get with her. And then we also left her, not disturb her, but then we went to the other one and tried to get as much of the stuff that we were missing. So that's how we went about shooting them. And also, because the two of them are very very contrasting in nature and their characters. Ratima, because she's a singer and she has this poise of a performer, it was much easier to shoot her. It was much easier to get the stuff that we wanted out of her. Whereas with Kalima, we really had to chase her around and film her during whatever she was doing, and then hope that she would say the right things when we were recording her voice. So it was a different approach with both of them. And in the scenes that we had them together, well, when you befriend someone for a long time, you kind of know what they're going to say. So we would not provoke them, but we would say certain things, and we knew the things that they would reply. So this is how we worked when we wanted the things that we were trying to film.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, anyone else? I guess not. So, this is, there's a picture I saw of the two of you and Rajan, with the backs to each other and the photo shoot kind of a picture. So, it reminded me of these two American comedians, Penn and Teller. Have you heard about them? Yeah, this comedian duo.
No, but I think we said, let's do a Bollywood photo. Let's do a Bollywood director's photo. And that was the first. Because they were in a workshop and they were doing photos of us, and they said, okay, two of you now. And then we did something, and then we did something, South Asian for a while, and that worked. So that's what we've been.
So clearly both of you go back a long way.
Yes, we went to the same university. Rajan was a year senior to me. And then we met and bonded over films and things like that. And we kind of did something while at university as well. And I used to help with Rajan's films, give feedback on his scripts and subtitles and film titles and things like that. So we know each other since 2008.
And what are you working on now, both of you together? So I guess.
No, we are working on different projects. Rajan is working on a documentary. He's in the early stages of development. He was just pitching in Dockage, Kolkata in the first week of March. I'm researching my next film, so I'm not shooting yet. I'm just researching.
So these are independent projects. You're not working together on that?
No, for these ones are we are not working together on these ones professionally. No.
Okay.
Just due to the nature of the films and our own, intentions and ambitions.
Okay. Yeah. Anyone else with any last question before we wrap up? No, I think we are done. Thank you so much. A big thank you to you and Rajan. Wish you.
Thank you. Thank you for.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the lovely film.
I'd like to thank Sunir Pandey, Sushma, Veerappa and Vikalp Bengaluru for bringing in today's film to BIC. I'd also like to thank the audience for their time, interest and questions. Thank you and have a good night.